So if you're getting an Ariel Rider X class, you're probably going to get one, well, not similar to this at all. It's going to look way different, and it's going to be super different than this. As you can see, mine is not really looking like an X class. The bag is a little wonky on mine. That looks better. And you know, if you're getting one, you're probably going to want to know what you can get on it and what is the best for it. So I pretty much have probably some of the best components on my X class, and this is just because of my terrain and just where I am. There's a lot of devil thorns here, there's a lot of mud, it rains, it's dirt and everything, so I'm about to describe what you should get for your bike and what I would recommend you getting. Okay, so I'm going to try and make this as clear and concise as possible on what I just straight up recommend you getting, what you don't necessarily need, and what you definitely need. So I'm going to start with what you definitely need. You definitely are going to need a new bike cover, a bike seat cover I should say. Don't mind my neighbor, they're just testing out their truck. This bike seat cover is a Mad Dog. I'm pretty sure it's made by Coleman or something. I think the company's owned by Coleman, because they have a pretty similar model that's exactly the same. I don't remember if this even came in like a Coleman like container, like it was a Coleman Mad Dog. I don't remember. But the seat that comes with it is basically a piece of hard plastic wrapped in a layer of foam, wrapped in pleather, and it's just not very comfortable. Another thing that I would recommend replacing is the pedals it comes with. Just like all other bicycles, the Ariel Rider is not different. And so is the Super 73s. They all come with these cheap cast iron pedals. Of course, you could pay for more expensive pedals, but they'll charge you like 80 bucks. These are Piaroma pedals, and they're like a polyethylene or something like that. And they're absolutely awesome. I'm missing one bolt, I just noticed that. And they're super grippy. If I could give you a demonstration, I'll try right now. Okay, I flipped the camera to just show you how grippy these are. Let me just show you. This is my foot. That's my foot at an angle. Now watch this. These are some of the most grippy pedals. I mean, you could see how insanely grippy that is. In fact, that might have, yeah, it just tore up my shoe a little. So, you know, those pedals are pretty dang durable. Next thing I definitely recommend is getting another headlight, since the headlight that comes on the bike just isn't super bright. Well, it's actually pretty bright, but the problem with it is that it shows things kind of like on a parallel or a flat instead of showing it in a circle. So it's not exactly my cup of tea. So I got rid of my headlight and replaced it with this, which is much better in my opinion. Next is the bike actually comes with a bell, and I would just say put that bell on a beach cruiser or something, or throw it away, because you really need one of these little horns. This is a Top Trek. It's supposed to be like a moped horn, and I'll try and give you a demonstration. It's actually very loud. It's hard to capture how loud it is on camera, but when it's fully charged, a car can definitely hear it. And it lasts months. I haven't charged it once since I've gotten it, so I don't know how long it lasts, but it lasts a while. Another thing I definitely recommend is getting a Chainstay Protector. If you're like me, you go off-roading. This bike is actually not super dirty. I cleaned it recently, so it's got like barely any mud on it. I've gotten this thing soaked in mud like it looks like a dirt bike. I just wanted to add that the bike appears to be pretty waterproof. I don't exactly know the IP rating. I'm assuming it's probably like IP7, because it's pretty much practically completely waterproof. I once got caught out in the rain in this thing and was kind of scared that it would cut out. I got caught in pretty deep rain, pretty deep mud, and from what I could tell is that the bicycle seems to be unaffected by it. And it's survived that, but a Chainstay Protector is definitely necessary. Now this bike doesn't have a really long chainstay, so if you get something you have to actually cut it. So I wrap this in electrical tape on one side, and then I cut straight through the electrical tape, and then I singed the ends so that there were no frays. and it made a perfect chainstay protector, and there's not going to be any scratches where the lizard skin is. So I had to add this just in case anyone was wondering, but the chain probably looks a lot nicer than the chain that came with it, and that's because it is. These are two Shimano chains linked together with obviously a pretty nice master link. The chain that comes on the bike, for how nice the bike is, just isn't that great of a chain. And the chain actually broke on me, so I had to make an emergency stop at the bike shop using only electrical power. And it's two chains, so it's super long. Burner shock, or a shock that's even softer than this, because this is even stiff itself. So the shock that comes with the bike, even the updated one, is still super stiff, and in my personal opinion, it's just a bit too uncomfortable with the stiffer shock to ride. So I got this shock, and I really have been enjoying it. It's not too bad, but this is the 170 mil of travel, and it works pretty well, but I wish I got one that's a bit softer. Another thing you'll need is turn signals, but don't get a turn signal like this. Get those ones where it's like individual arrows, because these turn signals, honestly, they suck. Like, no one can see them. This thing is super tiny, and if you have a bicycle, don't get this for a bicycle or an electric bike. Like, they suck. I just don't recommend them. Not gonna say what the company is, but they're not very good. So for the most part, the next thing that I'd recommend that you definitely should get is this bag. If you're wondering what it is, it's actually covered up because I was riding in the rain. This is an Anmalu bag. It's like a Chinese brand. I had to order this off eBay because I couldn't find it on Amazon. And I'll try to leave the link towards most of the stuff, but it's a lot of stuff. But it works really well. I like it a lot. It tends to go at an angle all the time, but it's whatever. The next thing that I recommend just for all bikes that have disc brakes is these rubber grip covers, because they're just so nice. I would definitely recommend them, and they're just too good. I love them. Okay, now I'm gonna go to the stuff that you don't need, but I prefer and I like. Okay, so going to the stuff that you don't need. So I obviously did a few things on the bike that make it look really unique. One is, I would say, the front plate. So when I replaced the headlight weighed like 3 pounds. So I got rid of the headlight and I replaced it with this front shield so wind doesn't go straight through. Believe me when I say this, if you live in a cold area and you don't have a windshield like this, your legs get cold when you tuck them near the bike. And this windshield actually does help a lot. It's actually a motorcycle number plate, but there's no numbers. Maybe in the future I'll put some on, but I don't know. Not right now. And the way I did that, I actually had to custom make this. I bent it, I heated it, and bent it around an angle, and I made these holes by heating up a flathead and putting zip ties through them. And I made a cut. I had to do this cut, which I think I did pretty good on it, but I tried covering it up so it won't damage the wires. But I just ended up wrapping the wires in red electrical tape, which I think really suits the bike. So what are the other things I added? Well, I obviously took off the old stem. I actually cut the other one down, so this is shorter than the other stem. And I took it off, and I added spacers in it. I'll try and capture the spacers, but they're a little difficult to see. And I think it looks really good. This is a Wake stem. It's about a $7 to $9 stem, and it's really good, super good actually so far. I have one on my mountain bike. This is the one off my mountain bike, and I put the black one on my mountain bike, and I put the red one on this. I took this off my mountain bike originally, so it's been working pretty well so far. I obviously changed the handlebar. This is not a wide handlebar. Not a fan of it, but I do like dirt bike handlebars, but they unfortunately don't make them like this. You really need a dirt jumper handlebar for a bike if you're going to do this. But the handlebars that come with the bike are actually pretty nice. One thing is, if you get this bike and you have the handlebars, they have these grips. To me, they were uncomfortable because you couldn't put your hand all the way through, and when you're trying to like ride, you're trying to get that proper grip form, it's pretty uncomfortable. in my opinion. Some people think they're super comfortable, actually. The next thing that I'd recommend, though, if you did want to do this, is getting just new grips. These are super good grips. I got other grips before, but definitely get the ones where it has a bolt on each side, because if you get one where it has a bolt on one side, they tend to slip. And I've tried 2 like that so far, and even the nice ones tend to slip. And these, I haven't gotten them to slip yet, but these are super grippy, comfortable rubber grips. Top cabins, they're really good. I think they were cheaper than the other grips I got, which had 1 bolt. I think these were only like $7, but they're aluminum, I'm pretty sure both these are, and they're super good. I mean, I haven't broken them yet. I've clearly fallen. So here's my Maraca End Caps. This is so that when you fall, the bar doesn't take a plug out of you. And I have one on the other side as well. I'll try to show you both of them. So there's the other plug, and I've clearly dropped the bike. I mean, there's a little bite out of these rubber grips, but everything's lasted so far. Now, I'm sure you're gonna ask the number one thing, which is, what are these tires? And if you live in an area like I do, you have these things called devil thorns, which pop normal bike tires all the time. And normal bike tires, I'm gonna be real, they just don't work really on a bike like this, because you're doing a lot more miles than you normally do. So I took off the bike tires that were on it. They were BFT Big Boats. Did not like that. That was so hard. I heated them up. I put soap on them. I tried to squeeze them out. It took me probably about 4 hours to get them off. And it took me probably about 10 minutes to get both these tires on. So the freaking bike tires, I'm not doing that shit again. That was the worst thing ever. Not doing bike tires. But if you want to know what size you can put of basically any dirt tire, whatever, you can put 3.0 by 16 tires on this bike. These are 3.0 by 16 Shinko 244s. Or if you don't want to get enduros, you can get slick tires, and you could get the same size, 3 inches by 16, because in motorcycles, they actually measure the inside diameter and the inside length. So they don't go by the outside, which if you were buying bike tires for this, if you wanted to know the size, it actually is a 4x20 bike tire. And it's a bit trippy getting these on, because you know, they're actually not really supposed to be super flat like this, but it works really well. These are really good tires. I haven't popped them yet. When I got the new inner tubes for this bike, they would pop all the time because they were bike tires, and you really, seriously, you can't use bike tires in my area. You pop them all the time, and I'm telling the truth, like, you just pop them so fast, they really just don't work, and they're just too weak, I would say. So if you're asking, you know, what's the benefits or the downsides of these, well, you definitely get a decrease in speed. Not much, it's only like 2-3 miles, but you typically can get to your top speed if you just pedal a little. Another thing is that, you know, people will ask, oh, does it decrease the range? It does definitely decrease the range, but not by a lot. I would say before, just using pure throttle alone, you know, I get 25 miles. I maybe get 21 to 23 miles with these. And then pedaling, you know, of course I get a little less. Like pedaling, I was averaging about 40 miles on a single charge. And I pedal a lot, but I also don't pedal a lot. I like to use full throttle, so getting 40 miles is pretty good. A lot of people don't pedal 40 miles on one charge. Today I went over 20 miles, so the bike still has half battery, so I might get 40 miles today just because I'm pedaling so much. But in reality, these are actually really good tires, the Shinko 244s, and they call them SR244s if you're wondering. Full name is SR244s 3x16 Enduro tires made by Shinko. They also call them, I think their official name is Golden Boy. And I really love these. These are some of the best. You can actually run these apparently tubeless. I don't run them tubeless because I actually don't believe in tubeless, but if you wanted to take some weight out of them, you could run them tubeless. Another thing is that I also run them with slime in the tires. You can use all different types of slime. I just prefer the classical green slime, and I really like the green slime because the green slime works really well. And I mean, I haven't really had a problem with the bike. It's at 700 miles, 6 months. I mean, I've beaten this thing up. I've crashed on this thing, and it's been working really well so far. And I mean, it's a really good bike. It's just super reliable. Everyone who's ridden it thinks it's the greatest thing. And I'm going into the Army, and I want to try to put at least 1,000 or more miles on it before I go. But I've had it for like a long time. I haven't actually been able to ride it because recently I've been doing all my Army stuff. So they recommended that I shouldn't ride this too much, so I've been really trying to stay off it. So I've had it for about 6 months, and it's been pretty reliable. Believe me, if I wasn't doing the Army thing, I probably would have 2,000 or 3,000 miles on it already. So overall, you know, the bike is pretty good. So I'll take a little short clip of riding and show you what it's like to ride. Okay, so if you're wondering how to unlock it into the top speed mode, what you're going to want to do is you're going to want to turn the bike on, which is the right button right there, this one. And then you're going to want to press this, and then I'm pretty sure, actually, is it hold? Yeah, you hold the left button, and then, I know, I'm such a noob, and then you go to password, and then what the password is it's 1, and then you press 1, and then you press the button again, and then you press it 2 times, and it's 2, and then you press the next one 3 times. We press this 3 times, and it's 3, and then you press the next one 4 times, and it's 4, and then you press the button again, and that enters it into PD, and that unlocks the top speed mode, which the top speed on this bike, to be honest, when I had the lighter tires on it, I was getting on average 34, but since my bike is so heavy, this bike with everything added on it that I've put on it probably weighs around 90 pounds. You'll only get about 20 miles per hour. I mean 28 miles per hour with all the stuff I added on it. But the average, I would say, for me right now is I'm getting 30 miles an hour, and you're probably going to get 30 miles an hour too, 30 to 32. It's a pretty fast bike, and it's pretty good when it comes to speed. I mean, it's a lot faster than other e-bikes. Of course, there's a slight delay in the speed controller, but that ain't really a problem since this bike is like a freaking monster. I mean, this is such a good bike, seriously. So let me get to the riding part, and I'll show you how to ride it. So when you get on the bike, you're basically greeted with a pretty good package. I mean, you have a 48 volt 16 amp hour battery, when in reality it's like about 15.6 or 15.8 amp hour, something like that. And you have 2 Tektro hydraulic disc brakes, which are nice. I would definitely, though, recommend replacing the rotors and the brakes, because Tektro, while they make good brakes, they don't make good brake components. I don't really like their brakes or their rotors. I haven't gotten around to replacing the rotors, but I replaced the brake pads already. You're also greeted with these passenger pegs, which are super strong. I saw the old model had passenger pegs, and I mean, these are super strong. They're really good. So when you get on the bike, you can do different modes of pedal assist, and you could just go all the way up to 5, and 5 is 28 miles, so it'll go 30 or more. 4, I think, is 20 to 25. 3, I think, is, no, 4 is, I don't really know what 4 is actually. No, 4 is like 23 to 27, I would say, and then 3 is like 20 to 24, and then 2 is like 15 to 20, and then 1 is like 14 miles an hour in general. So it comes with a thumb throttle. I actually kind of have grown accustomed to the thumb throttle, and I like it so far, and it works pretty well, actually. It's really smooth. But let me show you some of the speed on this thing, and I'll try and capture the true speed. So I'm gonna go from here to down the street, and I'll show you what it looks like. So I didn't enjoy the audio from the last clip, or well, not the audio, but so much the performance, because it's kind of hard to tell on a angled street how fast you can go. So I got this in the highest gear, and I'm gonna do a 0 to 30 test. It's probably gonna only get to 28 or 29. Sometimes we'll get to 30. Generally the speedometer on this is like, I'd say 2 miles slower. So that's how I'd go off the proper speed, but it's pretty accurate in general. So I'm gonna do a 0 to 30 miles an hour test. So I'll do one pedaling and one not pedaling. So I'm going to cut out the sound, so if you don't really hear much sound, I'm sure you guys don't want to hear wind, because wind doesn't really sound nice. So I'm wondering if I should do it like this or like this. Probably like this. Okay, so we could only get to 29, so I'm going to show you now 0 to 30 pedaling, and I think we'll be able to get to 31 now. So here we go. Get my foot in place on these nice pedals. So if you're wondering if it's hard to pedal, it really actually isn't. I'm gonna go from a stop in the highest gear, and this doesn't have a torque sensor. It has what's called a cadence sensor, and it basically doesn't sense that you're pushing the amount. Usually torque sensors go off the amount of torque that you're putting into the bike. This goes on just your pedal rotation and the amount of power it'll put in. So we're going to go from a stop in the highest gear and pedal up the hill in setting 1. So let's go. And it sounded like I struggled, but I actually wasn't. I just had to launch off the curb. And this is uphill pedaling, and it's not too bad. You can hear I'm not getting winded, and overall it's pretty nice, not too bad. And this is uphill too, so you know, it's pretty smooth. And of course this bike does do pretty good uphill. If you're an older person and you can't afford a normal priced e-bike, this is, well, I would say it's not even a cheap e-bike, it's just a good e-bike. And the components on it are not really cheap. What do I think after owning the Ariel Rider for around 6 months and doing over 600, near 700 miles on it? Well, I think it's a really good bike for the price, and even for the price, it's an extraordinarily good price. I've ridden the Super 73s, and they just, in comparison, are good, but there's just something a little different about them. I guess it's maybe the layout and the way that the bikes are made. They put the tank, you know, where a tank would be, but the bike just feels so empty on a Super 73. It's a little weird. Not to mention there's a big price hike. I'm not saying Super 73s are bad. They're actually really good bikes. There's nothing really bad about them. They have a really good warranty, and they're pretty reliable from what I heard. And if you have bad components, they'll fix it. The only difference is that they cost $2,000, and even then their warranties, you know, are still, if you needed to buy components, well, the bike components are still really expensive on a Super 73, where the bike components on this are pretty cheap. Talking to the company, I asked them how much it would be to actually buy a replacement motor once it wears out, and they said that the motor is covered up to 1 year. So because I got it covered, it's a free coverage plan, and you know, everything's covered for up to 1 year, so it's a super good plan. But you know, I saying in general, if you wanted to buy just the motor for this bike, it's about $150 for the motor alone, which when you compare that to a lot of bike motors, that's actually really cheap, including that this bike's motor is a 750 watt motor. Now, of course, you can only get that if you already purchased an Ariel Rider X Class, but I mean, it's definitely a bike that's worth it. Now, of course, there's the battery keys. I always carry those on me just in case. And, you know, the battery's a little difficult to take out. That's one judgment that I could definitely give. And the battery does stay in there pretty tight, but of course it is a little wobbly at some times. You know, when I hit something really hard, I'm a little scared I shook it loose, but nothing came loose. Of course, if anything goes wrong, the company will replace the battery within a year. At least I think they'll replace it within a year. And overall, the bike has a really good finish. The paint on the bike is absolutely beautiful. I mean, you know, I accidentally ordered red. I meant to get blue, but the red just looks so good. I mean, I never thought it would come like this. I thought the red would be too aggressive and too eye-popping. But the red, I mean, it seriously is a good-looking red color. It's like a dark red, like a dark lipstick red, not like a bright red. And the welds on it are just beautiful welds. I mean, some parts it's a little thick, but you can look at the welds in general and just see how they layered them, how you have to weld that. I mean, that takes a lot of time, welding a weld that looks like that. And, you know, I don't care if they're a little thick in some areas. That just means it's a little stronger. I mean, it looks like though each weld took a long time to actually put together. So the bike is super strong. And, you know, there's things that you can tell where they replaced them from the old bikes, which is one thing they replaced was the passenger pegs. They had little dinky ones on before, and they put legitimate, like, motorcycle pegs. I mean, these things are awesome. I stand on these all the time. They're aluminum, I'm pretty sure, not steel, so they're pretty light, and they fold up. They got a really nice clicking fold, because when you pull them out, they actually extend a little outwards, and they fold in like this, and they're in there very, very tightly. And when you fold them down, they fold down pretty well for your passenger. I mean, overall, the quality of the bike is just outstanding for the price point. And the price point that I got this at was actually on sale for $1,400. I think I got it for $1,400 flat. I don't even remember the taxes. I don't remember if there were even taxes. I know that I spent barely anything on this bike really in taxes, but I feel like for the price point that I got it at, it was definitely a really worth it purchase. I mean, seriously, this bike has outperformed any expectations that I could have ever given it. And I mean, in general, would I recommend this bike? Yeah, I definitely recommend it. If you have the cash, or you have some extra change, or you need a going around town vehicle, this bike is definitely a bike I would recommend, because not only is it reliable, it's affordable, and it's just a beautiful bike. I mean, I think mine looks extra good for the fact that I put a lot of good components on it. I mean, it's got a really nice aggressive front with really nice aggressive tires. These Enduro tires, I've taken them off-road, and I've done trails with these that dirt bikes would normally go on, and while the short wheel radius makes it feel a little weird off-road, it still drives really well off-road. And this bike overall is just super good on range. It's super good on charging. It's generally just a great bike and a great vehicle. This, I could imagine, if you put some street tires on it and you just made it more comfortable, you could definitely make this bike a commuter. Well, that's all I have to say about my X-Class, and I really hope that you found my videos informative. Thank you very much for watching.